Alright guys, well, welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about all the stuff that I got wrong from Season 3 of The Chosen. There's actually quite a bit of it, but I am happy to report there is quite a bit that I got correct as well. So we'll do a little bit of back padding, and we'll do a little bit of sulking, as we got some stuff wrong, but some stuff correct. Obviously, I can't go through an extensive list of all of my guesses, because I'd have to go through like 30 hours of videos. So we're going to go through specifically some of my older YouTube videos that I did a while ago. One of them, I believe, is 7 months ago or 10 months ago. The other one is, one of them is 7 months ago, and the other one is 10 months ago. So to give you an idea, one of them came out in April of 2022, and the other one came out in July of 2022. So we're going to look at the older one first, look at the guesses that I had there, and then we're going to jump into just talking about it and talking about, what I think, how I think we got some stuff right and how I think we got some stuff wrong. These are all my guesses from very, very, very far ago. And so let's jump in. Here we go. Number 2 is not a big surprise for everybody, but we're definitely going to get a continuation of the John the Baptist story. So I thought John the Baptist might die in this season. That didn't happen, obviously, but let's hear about my conclusion as to why I think that might have happened, right? In my opinion, I believe that we'll see John the Baptist dying in season 3. I think that we'll get a little bit of the background where John sends his disciples to go talk to Jesus and maybe ask him if he's actually the Messiah. But then I think that we'll also see maybe a whole episode dedicated, or at least a section of an episode dedicated to John's death and what that does to Jesus, what that does to Andrew and Philip, remember, who are disciples of him. It's going to be an intense moment, I think. And that one of the biggest reasons why I thought this might happen is because the feeding of the 5,000 is really kicked off by John the Baptist's death. And the feeding of the 5,000 is really a lot different than we see it in The Chosen. Like, the feeding of the 5,000 happens somewhere else. It doesn't happen in the Decapolis. It happens for Jews as well. And then the feeding of the 4,000 is the one that happens in the Decapolis, and it's for Gentiles. And so it's a completely different kind of setup that happens there. And so I really thought that John the Baptist's death would fit really, really well in season 3. But didn't happen, obviously. So I was wrong about that one. That brings us to number 3. I think that it's pretty well known that it's kind of annoying how we have 2 Simons in the group right now, and I think that Dallas is planning on changing that. 2 wrong in a row. So these are some of my very first guesses towards season 3, and obviously I was wrong about those first 2. So we didn't get Simon's name change in season 3. So yeah. As we've seen in the last 2 seasons, they haven't changed his name to Peter yet, so I think that we're going to see that in season 3. Remember, in the Bible... What an idiot. What an idiot, Brandon. This actually happens whenever Jesus sends them out 2 by 2. And if you've watched our last video on season 3 and what's upcoming, then you know that that's going to be coming up in season 3. Jesus is going to send all the disciples out 2 by 2 to do miracles and heal people and to further the ministry. Personally, I'm really looking forward to Peter having his name, because that's what I always call him anyways, and people comment all the time. They still do, yeah. Hey guys, I wanted to let you know about something wild about our channel. 67% of the people that watch our channel are not subscribed. So if you're not, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. It would really, really help us out. Since this is my full-time job, I really rely on YouTube to push out these videos. And the more subscribers we have, generally that helps it to push out to more people. So it would really, really help us out if you could subscribe. One thing that I expect to see in The Chosen Season 3 is the development of Judas. We've just barely scratched the surface with who Judas is and what is... This is kind of like a softball guess. This is kind of like a... what's the easiest guess I could go for? And that's the character development of Judas. Background is. And so as these disciples get together and get sent out 2 by 2, things are going to change, right? We're going to see more of Judas as he's getting into the group. He's going to befriend the group and become, I think, a really integral part of their ministry. Remember, Judas isn't just this evil guy that's sitting in here. He truly does believe, at least, that what Jesus is doing is good, and he wants to follow along with it. He does for 3 years or so. This, to me, is going to be one of the most pivotal parts of the Chosen series as a whole. I think how they treat Judas is going to determine how well people react to the series. and seeing how Judas can be a real person is going to be hard for a lot of people, because generally we think of him as just the villain who betrayed Jesus. But The Chosen is going to be able to fill in some of those things for us to give us a little bit more of an emotional connection to him. Next. Yeah, so I think that this is something that's definitely going to happen more, like a lot more, in Season 4 and Season 5. Season 3, we got a little bit of it, but we really didn't get that many scenes with Judas or any character development, like heavy moments. We did see him cast out a demon, which was very cool to see that, from Judas especially. But we didn't get to see a ton of other things from him. So, yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys would want to see from Judas specifically. Like, what would you want to see him do? How would you want to see him interact with the group? It'd be interesting to kind of hear your thoughts on that. Next, we've already seen a sneak peek of Season 3. So if you haven't seen my video on that, go check it out right here. And that talks all about Matthew's earlier years, how he became a tax collector in the first place, and how his family disowned him. So we were right about this one. This is really the first one that we get actually right about the guesses. And this was really because we saw Dallas put out a piece of the script early, about Matthew and his life and all that stuff. So we saw a little bit of this, but we weren't sure exactly where it would lead to. And so let's listen to the rest of my guess here. This is going to be an intense moment for Matthew, but it's going to set up a lot of different things for us as well. Remember, Matthew is going to change in Season 3. His wardrobe's going to change. His place in the group is going to change. I think a lot of people are going to warm up to Matthew a little bit, but he's going to have to do some growing in himself. And I think that begins with understanding where he's come from and how that has affected him all throughout his life. And just like, yeah, I think that's very true. I think that we saw that a lot in Season 3. Obviously, we saw a massive change in Matthew. We saw a change in his wardrobe. We saw a change in his relationship with his parents and the relationship with the group overall. A lot of them began to trust him and to rely on him for certain things. And so we definitely saw a new side of him. Marjorie says, I wish they would have shown him getting his new garment. I think that could have been a cool scene. I thought they did a good job of giving him his seat back, the prayer tassels. I thought they did a good job of that, but yeah. You're right about John the Baptist's disciples as well, dude. Be easy on yourself. We'll talk through it. There's some other stuff I definitely got right. And I can't go through all of my guesses here, so that's why I chose a couple of these videos to go through. But yeah. It's like Matthew dealing with his past. We're going to see more of Mary Magdalene in Season 3 as well. Oh, this one I was kind of right about. Like, we did see Mary Magdalene's guilt kind of getting fixed in Episode 1. And we talk about it a little bit. I guess it's a correct guess, right? Because we see it with Tamar as well, where she talks about that guilt and stuff. So I guess it was a pretty big point in Season 3 overall. Remember, at the end of Season 2, we didn't get much of a closure moment for Mary Magdalene. She sat with Jesus and he forgave her. But beyond that, we really doesn't the scene feel so long ago? It feels like such a long time ago. See much of what she was going through. In fact, most of episodes 7 and 8, she really seemed guilty overall. The group was blaming her for different things, and she wasn't fully back to where she was before. Because of this, I think that we're going to see more of her redemption arc and see her maybe feeling guilty or working through that guilt in some way, allowing Jesus to fully heal her again and bring her back to where she needs to be within the group. Yeah, and again, I don't know if she's fully healed, but she definitely got a big kind of character arc moment of her with Tamar kind of getting to a place where she needs to be, and she's definitely a lot better than she was, for sure. And last but not least, if you watch the 2021 Christmas special, you know that there was a secret character that was revealed in this special itself. Well, actually, a couple of them, but one that we know is going to be in Season 3 because Dallas has told us so. And that would be Lazarus. We know that Lazarus in the Bible was one of Jesus' best friends, and that his sisters, Mary and Martha, also hung out with Jesus quite often in Bethany. So this would make sense that Jesus would meet them in Season 3. I'm really hoping that we get all three of them, that we get Mary, Martha, and Lazarus all together with Jesus so that we can see kind of what this relationship could have been like. it's going to be interesting if we have the moment where Mary is listening to Jesus and Martha is just trying to work. I would love to see that scene in live action. But now, we don't get that scene in particular, but we do get, a large portion of episode 3 where Mary and Martha and Lazarus are present, right? And we get to see that relationship between Lazarus and Jesus pretty fairly well. I really loved that portion of the episode. So really, really good. So we got some stuff right. We got a couple things wrong. Now this one, is less of guesses. But I wanted to look at this video in particular because it gives us a really good idea of how The Chosen was planning to do season 3, and gives us a lot of different hints and stuff. This was probably one of my favorite videos that I made about the upcoming stuff because we found some hidden gems that The Chosen kind of let slip through. We're going to talk about season 4 in a bit here, but that's going to be in a different section. So let's focus on season 3 guesses and what we're kind of going through here. But let's get into this video and chat through some stuff. Let me just start this from the beginning because it'll make a lot more sense. So let's jump in. We're not going to see Lazarus die in this season. It's about The Chosen. That's going to take place at the wrong one. Coming up in season 3. In this episode specifically, we're going to be looking at factual kind of roadmap stuff of season 3 and some hidden things that have been in the past Chosen videos on YouTube. There might actually be spoilers here. So if you don't want to know about any of that stuff and you want season 3 to be completely fresh, don't watch this video. But for those of you who want to go on the journey with me and sleuth out everything that we can find, then here we go. This is going to be an amazing video. In October 2020, before season 2 of The Chosen was even released, there was a video released on The Chosen's YouTube channel talking about writing The Chosen itself. So this was a video that was in between season 1 and 2, and they were writing for season 2 and planning out the rest of the seasons ahead of time in order to make sure that everything made sense and that they could set up the storylines, right? During this writing session, they allowed they had behind the scenes video of all of it and like showing the whole thing. However, they didn't do a good enough job of scrubbing through the footage to make sure that there was no spoilers throughout it. They did a pretty good job, but they weren't Brendan Snipe proof. And so I was able to go through and really find out a bunch of the stuff that was in this. So let me go ahead and scooch forward here. Together. And while we can't read everything, sometimes because of the bad handwriting and sometimes because it's out of the frame of shot, but we can see a lot of what's kind of going on, especially in season 3, which is interesting as we're walking up to that right now. And as we continue to put this puzzle together, it'll help us to have a better view of what the season is supposed to look like. So as we look at these things that The Chosen has written out in this roadmap, it gives us an idea of what they were planning on, what was coming up for season 3, but this was before they had written season 2. So not everything that they wrote here is actually what came to pass. And so it's kind of interesting as we look at this. So here is the image of the partial roadmap of season 3, and we can see a little bit of season 4 here as well. I have all of these things blacked out because we're going to reveal them one by one as we go through this video. But first, how do we even know that this is season 3? This could be from any other season of the show as well. Well, if we take this screenshot right here, we turn it upside down so we can see it the right way, we see an earlier version of this roadmap that actually comes near the end of the video. We can see all the way to the bottom left that at the end of season 1, we see the woman at the well. And then we see season 2 begin in the second column. At the bottom of the third column is labeled season 3, and then season 4, season 5, and so on. Now what's written in column 2 or season 2 of this image is kind of blurred out. But if we go back and compare it to the other image that we have, we can see that this is obviously talking about the Sermon on the Mount, which is in season 2. Now this gives us clarity that this is season 3 that we're looking at in this main column of the image that we're going to dissect today. Now there is a small video section showing this area. So that little tiny video section right here, it's literally like 2 seconds long, right? As we look at this, this is Ryan, I believe, writing on this roadmap. And so if we zoom in here, we can start reading everything that they're talking about as far as season 3, but we can also see actually into season 4, which is going to be a totally separate video that we're going to talk about in a little bit. All my guesses for season 4 from this roadmap and beyond the roadmap of what I expect to see in the future. But for season 3, we can see in the middle here, the middle section of this map here, holds all of season 3, and so it's kind of all the connecting points and the different things that were supposed to be happening. So as we go through it piece by piece, you'll kind of see some of the stuff that actually ended up happening and some of the stuff that actually they changed later on, which was interesting. Small video section showing this area of the roadmap. At the top of season 3 in this column, we see a title, and it says Year of Popularity. Then something in the middle that I can't really read, and then at the bottom it says Led to Optimism. So I think it may say miracles and healing led to optimism. So miracles and healing led to optimism in season 3, right? So the overall idea for season 3 is that they're going to be lulled into a sense of this optimism, that they're going to be lulled into, you know, wanting to do all this stuff and being, you know, kind of positive about everything that's happening, which is kind of what happens in season 3. They're all really excited about what Jesus is doing. They don't see the danger quite yet. So this is kind of the overall feeling of season 3. It's a year of popularity. As Christ becomes more popular in the area, he's healing people and people love him before they're going to turn on him later or before they find his ideas too out there. So this brings us to the first main point that's in this column of season 3, and that would be the bleeding woman, and it's linked to Jairus's daughter. So remember, this video is from July of 2022, right? So before season 3, before all this stuff, but this video that I'm looking at is from 2020. Okay. This is before season 2 was even released, and we already knew about the bleeding woman and Jairus's daughter. So like, it's so crazy that they actually let this through, to kind of see everything that's actually upcoming. Now, we've talked about this in our live streams before, breaking down season 3 and talking about what might be upcoming. Now, we thought that the bleeding woman might be a part of season 3, but we weren't sure if that would be linked to Jairus' daughter still. It seemed really important that it was, especially through scripture, but we hadn't seen any evidence of that quite yet until now. I guess 2 years ago we technically had it, but I didn't know it existed. And anyway, we're here now. So it really seems like this is going to be one of the first things that happens in season 3, which is really cool. I'm really excited to see this overall. I think it makes a lot of sense that in this season, Jesus would be doing more healing than ever. And he's going to be continuing to gain popularity, just like it says at the top of this title. Now, a really important piece of this puzzle is that at the end of this little section here, there's an asterisk, and then at the bottom it says Gaius hears. So Gaius is going to play a role in this as well, and we'll see what that turns into in just a second. Yep, setting up Gaius to be the centurion with the ill servant. Then if we go over to the left side of the next part of this column, we see Joanna returns. At least I think that's what it says. It's kind of hard to read. But if that's the case, then that means that we're going to be seeing Joanna, just like we've been guessing, in season 3, and we're going to see her pretty early as well. Now, the language Joanna returns could mean that originally Joanna was supposed to appear in season 2, but didn't. But I don't know. I don't know really what that means. Maybe she's just returning from a journey that she was on, and that's how we're introduced to her. Then I think this actually could mean that Joanna was supposed to have a second scene, like a second moment in the season, but she actually only appears in episode 1. And so maybe they meant for her to come in another scene in order to do her donation, but in season 3 they actually had it just off screen instead of having her come back to give money. In the next small section, after the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus proclaims that he wants to preach to the Gentiles. This is a big switch from just talking to Jews primarily in season 1 and 2. We see later on in the Gospels as Jesus becomes more and more familiar among the Gentiles, and so this would be a big part of his ministry as well, and I'm super excited to see more of that. Now, so Joanna is the rich woman who gave money at the beginning of episode, not the beginning, but at the beginning of season 3. In episode 1, she's wearing like the red and white kind of clothing. Her husband is Chusa, who works for Herod. She's the one that brings Andrew into the prison to go see John. In the next large column, it's kind of hard to read the lower part, but the top part says this: everyone breaks up into 2, which we've already talked about in our breakdowns. We talked about how they are going to go the 2x2 route, where everybody goes out 2x2 and they do miracles and they cast out demons and they do a bunch of different stuff. That's going to be an amazing, I think, montage. I don't think they're going to spend a ton of time on the 2x2. I don't think the whole season's going to be that, but I think that the 2x2 is going to be sort of a time skip, so that we're going to get the 2x2 montage, and that's going to bring us to a later point in the ministry. Because remember, throughout season 1 and 2, we've really only gone a couple of months, maybe, from the beginning of the season, from the beginning of the series. Yeah, so I was right about this too. I was really surprised actually listening to this earlier today. I was like, dang, I was really right about that. I was right that they would just do a montage and then there would not be that much of the 2x2. But in my heart, I really wanted there to be like a whole episode of 2x2. So, yeah. So there has to be some time moving here. Otherwise, we're going to be really skipping a lot of time later on. And then below this section, we see in parentheses that there are some words that say cost of discipleship. Now, I can't tell if this is an episode title. We're going to talk about this a little bit later on, so stick around. There's some important things that happen in season 4 that maybe connect to this. I'm not quite sure. So, but there's this phrase that keeps on repeating that we'll see as well. And then below that, we just get a list of names. So I'm not sure how this is kind of listed out. It says John, Big James, and I think it says Thaddeus and John. There's just a bunch of different names that are kind of here, but we don't know how they're ordered or why they would be there. It doesn't look like a list of 2x2. And so I'm not sure what that is. Then if we jump back up to the top right, we see Matthew here. And very interestingly, we see as Matthew seeks out Gaius. Now, this is a really interesting thing because obviously I couldn't have known during the making of this video, but they actually switched the roles of Simon and Gaius in order for Simon to have that relationship with Gaius in season 3. So originally Matthew was supposed to play that role, which makes a lot more sense to me, right? Because Matthew was the one that already had the relationship with him, and then Matthew finds out about the sick servant instead of Simon finding out about the sick servant. So it's interesting that they decided to switch that. I wonder why that is, because originally it looks like they wanted Matthew to be that person instead. Yeah, I was going to look at some of these things. Dallas said he will not do the transfiguration. Yeah, but he also said that he's not going to do the walking on water, right? So who knows what's actually going to happen and what God wants in there. But anyway, I thought this was really interesting that they originally had Matthew as the one that was going to be with Gaius and discovers his servant and all that stuff. But they changed that. So, yeah, interesting. So remember, since season 1, we haven't seen Matthew and Gaius back together and having any conversations since then. But Matthew seeks out Gaius, and then the interesting part is that he finds out about his servant. So for you Bible scholars out there, you've been pointing this out since season 1, that Gaius could possibly be the centurion with the servant who's ill that comes to Jesus and asks for him to be healed. Now this would be really, really interesting, and I think that may be a possibility. If we look at Luke chapter 7, it definitely runs out like that. Like the centurion comes to Jesus, asks for healing, and he has belief that it will be done. And Gaius's faith would have been strengthened from seeing all of these other healings take place, from Jairus' daughter to the bleeding woman. And so all of these things make sense, especially since this roadmap seems to be pointing out that fact that he would have seen Jairus' daughter and the bleeding woman, and that would possibly give him faith to believe that his servant could be healed as well. That would be really interesting. Yeah, so we got that right. I think generally that's exactly how it played out, so pretty cool to see that. But they just switched Matthew and Simon there in those storylines. Love to see more of Gaius for sure, so we'll see how that plays out. Then, nearing the bottom of the page, we get some really interesting stuff. We see Joanna again as she comes back to Capernaum, but this time she's bringing money with her. Now, so this kind of confirms that we would have seen Joanna in a different scene, or at least that they're saying that she did come back to give a donation, but it's never clarified if this is on screen or off screen here. Wasn't quite sure what this section actually said until later on in the Chosen's video when Ryan is pointing at the board. And as he's pointing at the board, whoever's editing this video is trying to blur around his hand so that his hand is not blurred during the video. But in doing so, they reveal certain words that we can read through. And so we can clearly read on the board as his hand kind of goes. You guys have no idea how much time I spent doing this. I literally went through this video like 3 times, frame by frame, to figure out any little details that I could. Through this motion, Joanna returns W/money, or with money. Remember, Joanna is the wife of Chusa, who is a high official. Think about it that way. And so Joanna is wealthy, and so she funds a lot of Jesus' ministry. So it makes sense that we would see Joanna in season 3 as she's beginning to help this ministry grow and do the things that it's going to do. Now that's the end of season 3 as far as we can see on this page for the most part. There are some other little pieces of text that we can read, but not fully. We only get a small picture of it. One of the interesting pieces that I can see left in season 3 is Shammai and Shmuel seeming to be together in some way. I can't fully read what this says, but it would be interesting to see Shammai again. And then if we look back at this other image that we flipped and we look back at the bottom of the page of season 3, we can see that it ends with the feeding of the 5,000, which we already knew. Now remember, any of this could have changed. So that's basically what I had figured out about season 3 overall. There's a lot more guesses that I had, obviously, as we were going through the behind the scenes, and as we kept on getting more information, I was able to piece together some different things all the way up until my final guesses for the season finale, which I did get some of those right as well, including the walking on water scene. We actually guessed that ahead of time as well. It seems like every single finale we guessed the big twist, so hopefully we can keep that trend going. We guessed Judas before the finale was out. We guessed the walking on water before that was out. And so, you know, we're going to continue doing that, hopefully. I hope you like this small piece of our weekly live stream. If you want to see the whole thing, just like always, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/thesnipelife. This is the best way to help support us, and you get to see the entire live stream where we have interaction with chat, answer questions, and do a bunch of different stuff on there. It's your choice whether you want to support $5, $10, or $25 a month, and this is really the best way to help support us on this channel and help us to make more videos just like this. Anyway, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.